In the quiet town of Springfield, Missouri, a chilling mystery unfolded that would leave the community in disbelief and the nation questioning the very fabric of trust. It all began on a seemingly ordinary morning in July 1995, when 19-year-old Brandy Lynn McMillan vanished without a trace. Brandy was described as a bright young woman, full of life and dreams. She worked at a local fast food restaurant, and her friends painted a picture of a girl who was loved by many. But on that fateful day, Brandy didn't show up for her shift. Concerned, her co-workers called her home, but there was no answer. It wasn't like her to just disappear. As the hours turned into days, panic set in. Brandy's family reported her missing, and the local police launched a massive search operation. They combed through the woods, searched nearby lakes, and even put up flyers, but there was no sign of her. It was as if she had vanished into thin air, but then a tip came in. A witness claimed to have seen Brandy getting into a car with an unknown man. This lead sent investigators on a wild goose chase through the town, interviewing anyone who might have seen the pair. As rumors spread, so did fear. The tight-knit community began to wonder who could do such a thing, and why. Days turned into weeks, and the search efforts began to dwindle. However, Brandy's family refused to give up hope. They organized search parties, reached out to local media, and even enlisted the help of psychic mediums. But still, there was no trace of Brandy. Then, in December of that same year, 6 months after her disappearance, a shocking discovery was made. A group of hunters stumbled upon a shallow grave in the woods, not far from where Brandy had last been seen. The authorities were called in, and as they dug deeper, the unthinkable was confirmed. The remains found were identified as Brandy Lynn McMillan. The news sent shockwaves through Springfield. Who could have done this and why? The investigation intensified, and detectives began to piece together Brandy's life, searching for anyone who might have had a motive. They interviewed former friends, ex-boyfriends, and anyone who had crossed paths with her. As they dug into her life, a name kept coming up: Jeremy. Jeremy was Brandy's ex-boyfriend, a man with a troubled past. He had a history of violence and was known to have a possessive streak. Investigators soon learned that Brandy had ended their relationship just weeks before her disappearance. They brought Jeremy in for questioning, but he maintained his innocence. He claimed he had no idea what happened to Brandy and that they hadn't spoken since their breakup. But the evidence began to stack up against him. Witnesses reported seeing him in the vicinity around the time Brandy went missing. Phone records showed that he had called her multiple times leading up to her disappearance. Despite this, there was not enough concrete evidence to charge him. Months passed and the case grew cold. Frustration mounted as families across the nation learned about Brandy's tragic story. Activists and true crime enthusiasts began to share her story online, shining a light on the mystery that still remained. Years later, in 2000, a breakthrough occurred. A new detective assigned to the case, driven by a personal connection to Brandy's family, decided to revisit the evidence. He re-examined the forensic details and discovered something overlooked: a tiny drop of blood found at the scene of the grave. DNA testing was still in its infancy back then, but now it proved to be a game changer. The results came back, and the blood belonged to Jeremy. With this damning evidence, the police were finally able to charge him with Brandy's murder. The trial that followed captivated the nation. As the evidence was laid bare, the courtroom was filled with tension. Jeremy's defense argued that the blood could have been planted, but the prosecution painted a dark picture of a jealous ex-boyfriend with a motive. In a shocking turn of events, during the trial, Jeremy's own brother testified against him, revealing that Jeremy had confessed to him about the murder. The jury was shown the chilling details of how Brandy had met her tragic fate. After days of deliberation, Jeremy was found guilty of first-degree murder and sentenced to life in prison. Brandy's story, though tragic, became a catalyst for change. It inspired new legislation around missing persons cases, and her family established a foundation in her name to help other families in similar situations. The case of Brandy Lynn McMillan is a haunting reminder of how quickly life can change and the dark secrets that can lie beneath the surface of a small town. It leaves us questioning: how well do we really know those closest to us? And what darkness can lurk behind a familiar face?